Today with Amazon Business, Shannon Stuckey of Walburn Woodworking helped her team buy 63 circular saws.
Okay, Andy, take it easy.
Now she uses her time to focus on growing something big. Buy smarter, dream bigger. Visit Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying.
Worth it. Drive high, it's still DUI. Drive buzzed, get busted.
This is Jared Rutledge of the Columbus River Dragons. Your home for River Dragons hockey in Noonan is 99 Rock.
The views and opinions of this show and program are not the views and opinions of this station, its management, or its clientele. Welcome to Connecting Hearts. Connecting hearts of women to resources, information, and to one another. Presented by Creative Heart Studios, 18 Perry Street and Noonan. Now here's your host, Margie Conway.
Hi, this is Margie Conway with Creative Heart Studios, and this is your Connecting Hearts Network program. This week I decided to go on my own to kind of share my story where adoption fits in. There is a movie out by the Kendrick brothers that several people I know are going with their church groups and everything to see, and I was going to go with a group, but as soon as I found out the topic for it was adoption, I was like, yeah, I don't know that I'm up to that one. It is a story of a young man whose birth mother goes to find him while he's a teenager, and he meets her. And I haven't watched it, so I don't know what it is, but it's anti-abortion, and that it is talking about giving the children life and, you know, allowing them to be raised by a loving family. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't really know what it's about, and I'm going to wait until it comes out and I can stream it at home, so that way when I get emotional, which I know I will do, I will be doing it at home instead of out in public, because I'm not the emotional kind and it's not too crazy about that prospect. Anyway, the more I considered the different people who had talked about coming on this week, the more I felt that I needed to share my story, the one of a birth mother, and how I gave 2 children for adoption as a teenager. And it's not easy to talk about. As a matter of fact, I didn't talk about it for 50 years or 40 years or however many 16 and 21 are from 57. But it was a life-altering decision and life-changing. And when I did start talking about it, people would say, oh, you're such a hero and you did such a thing. Come back at them at is it didn't feel heroic and it didn't feel brave. It felt desperate and giving up. But, you know, I've shared my story of how I grew up, you know, with the problems that my dad had and mental illness in the family and things that went on around my mom and other family members. And it's kind of like you would have to understand that they used to put kids' pictures on milk cartons, and there were times I would go in the store and look at the milk carton hoping I would find my picture on one, so I didn't really belong there. And when I was a small child, I read the story of The Princess and the Pea. And if you know that story, it is where the princess was put to a test. She came in and they were trying to determine if she really was a princess so she could marry the prince. And so they kept adding mattresses to the bed and they put a pea under it because a real princess would be uncomfortable with the pea under the mattress. And so I remember trying to put things under my mattress and lay in different ways so I could figure out if I could feel it. So when they came to find me, they would see that I was really the princess and didn't belong in that family. Now, there are good things about my family. You know, I remember making doll clothes with my mom. My grandma was a champion. She could be a grizzly bear or she could be a big teddy bear, and I loved my grandma to death. She was a career woman before it was possible, and she's the one that went to the spa, and she'd pick me up and carry me to the spa, and I'd have smoothies in the lobby because I was too young to go to the back, and we would go to Braves games, and, you know, so we had champions, and we did have good times in the family. It was not all, you know, terrible, horrible, bad, but there was plenty of stuff going on in it that I knew when I got pregnant at 16 that I didn't want my kids to raise that way. One thing that has kind of set me off is I have a granddaughter who's 14, and over the last weekend my grandson turned 16, and their older sister, who is my step-granddaughter, is now 21, And when we were sitting there at a family celebration this weekend, I was looking, and, I was 14 when I met the dad of the 4 children I gave birth to. I was 16 when I had my oldest son, and I even remarked on that to the son that was there. And I was 21 when I had already had 2 children I was raising and 2 that I'd put up for adoption. So when I look at my grandchildren, I'm like, they're kids, I shouldn't have been in that position, but at that point I wouldn't listen to anybody anyway. There's nobody in my family who would have tried to put us in that position. And, the kid's dad was young and didn't know any better than I knew. We shouldn't have put ourselves in those positions at that age, but we did. And, when people talk about abortion, the way that they're talking about this movie, they're talking about, she decided not to put the baby, have an abortion, but to put the baby up for adoption. And in the adoption community, abortion is not, and adoption are not on equal planes. Abortion is terminating the pregnancy and then carrying the baby through the pregnancy are the 2 life decisions that you have to make if you're going to have that child and carry it through, or if you're going to terminate the pregnancy. I most definitely was not terminating the pregnancy, and I had already decided that abortion was not something I would ever consider, even though it had been brought up in other avenues by other people. And I'm like, oh no, I did this. I'm taking responsibility for it, and I'm raising the kids, even if I had to do it on my own. So we had my son when I was 16 years old, and he went into the Army, and he was gone. We didn't talk for a while, and then he came back, and we ended up getting married a month before I turned 17. And, I stayed here where family was while I was raising Chris, and he was off in the Army. And I didn't go because I was young, and I didn't know what I was doing, and he didn't know what he was doing. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm staying here. And quite often I wonder if I'd went, if things had been different. But it was kind of like when he came home, if I wasn't pregnant, I got pregnant. And so here when we were 18, I had my daughter. So I had 2 children by the time I was 18. And I was still living in the house where my mom was or where my grandma was. It was depending on who I was talking to at the time. That's how grown up I was. So when he came out of the Army after 2 years, 2 weeks before the daughter was born, I ended up expecting again almost immediately. So my 3rd child, which was a son, was born 10 months after my 2nd one. And in that period of time, it was very, very, very clear that 2 was more than we could handle. I couldn't afford to buy shoes for them. I couldn't afford to do the things parents were supposed to do. He had issues of his own, and I'm not going in bashing them, but he was not, old enough and responsible enough to be a dad. He had his own issues. And I was trying hard, but I had no clue what, good parenting was supposed to be like. So at the age of 19, I had kind of isolated myself from my family. We'd moved off away on our own for the first time, and I cried all day when I found out I was pregnant because I didn't know how we would handle it. So the decision was made that someone we knew an adoption agency, and we would put him up for adoption. Well, here goes this girl who struggled to make friends through most of her life, who was an only child, who lived, through the things that I had lived for, and all of a sudden this social worker from that adoption agency was my very best friend. She carried me to doctor's appointments. She was there, for me to talk to when I needed to. She made sure I had what I needed to have. She even helped me with the 2 kids that I already had. And I had somebody who was concerned about me and my kids and our welfare. And I was assured out of the pages that they had given me, the couple that was on that page was going to be great parents and really wanted a child and was going to take really good care of my son. And all I could think at that point was I couldn't escape this life that I was in, so the best thing I could do was let him go and let him have a good life. And parents who were old enough and mature enough and had money enough to take care of him the best that they could do. And it ripped my heart out when I did it. I remember that baby, when I held him, I counted all his fingers and toes. I looked him up and down. I had a horrible time letting him go, but I did. Because, if you listen to me more and more, you'll find out I'm the type that just pulls the Band-Aid off and does what I feel like I need to do. And sometimes it's not the right thing to do, but it's the best I see at the moment. And I did have an aunt-in-law that when I was 16 and pregnant knew what that was like, because she had found herself in that same situation. And she had offered to take my oldest until I finished school and help us get on good ground. But I didn't do that because I was going to be the best mom and take care of him myself. And I think I could have gone to her at this point when I had the third one and said, I can't do this. And she would have done what she could to help, probably taking him. But it would have caused even more turmoil in our family than there already was. And there was already tons of it all around. On both sides of the family, there was alcoholics, there was fighting, there was fussing, nobody got along. And then I stop and think, well, my ex-mother-in-law, I could have went to her and said, I can't do this, and she probably would have helped, but then that would have really been violent battles on the other side of the family. So I let him go to what I thought would be the best home. And then all of a sudden, this very best friend that I had that was watching out for me and taking care of me, when I got to one of the most difficult times of my life, was gone. The kids that I had were young enough that they don't remember any of it. And people knew that I had been pregnant, but I had distanced myself enough from them that when my daughter was born, she had to go into oxygen because of asthma and breathing problems. So when they wanted to know when the baby was born in there, I just said he didn't make it from the hospital. And so they all took it, the baby passed. And they were like funerals, and I'm like, I'm not talking to any of you about any of this. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I walked away and wouldn't talk to them about it. So then we get to the point we're getting a little more stable, and it's a year and a half later, and we had broken up, but we got back together. We were trying to figure things out, and I ended up pregnant again. And yes, I knew what caused it, but we would be broken up or away from each other, and we were together only long enough for me to get pregnant again. And I knew immediately that, number one, I had put the third baby up for adoption. There was no way I could keep one afterwards. How would I ever explain that to anybody? How would he understand? So I knew right away there was nothing else I could do except give this baby up for adoption also. And I also was at the point then that I was going to court against my dad for some horrible things he had done to somebody else. So my whole family was very angry at me because I was literally putting him in jail until he died. And, then even though we were doing well, I don't think I trusted that it was going to last, because I didn't have very much trust or confidence in anybody at that point. So we called the adoption agency, and again, I had a really good friend, but at least I was smart enough this time that I didn't get attached. So when she left as the baby was born, I didn't have to grieve losing my friend as well as my baby. But I did go through 4 doctors before I found one who would give me a tubal, because I said, that's it. I will never be in this position again. And his things was, well, your husband's going to be a police officer. What if something happens to him and you're young and you get remarried? I said, then they better have their own kids, because I will never be in this position again. And I made sure I was not ever in that position again. So I set out, and we had about 5 good years there before things started falling apart again. And I set out to be the best mom that I could possibly be to the 2 I was raising. But I never talked about the others to anybody because it hurt too bad. It was too much of me missing to be able to talk to them. And if you've listened to me at any point, I'm not a sentimental person, and I'm not an emotional person. And that's a good thing, because I don't think I would have survived a lot that I went through, but especially this. Again, the kids were still young enough, they really didn't remember anything of what went on. So the only people that knew we put this baby up for adoption was me and my husband and a friend of his, who was the one that sent us to the agencies. Years went by, and again, it was never a day that they didn't leave my heart and didn't leave my mind, and me worrying about them and wondering about them. And as the internet came out, I started searching and Googling and doing all these things, and I tried to leave records open so, they could find me, but I didn't talk about it. And I one that wrote letters to them every year on their birthday because I had to keep moving and keep thinking that what happened with them was the best that I could do, that I couldn't let me or the other kids escape, but I let them escape. And to me, that's really what it was. I couldn't have saved me, and I had not saved the other two, but I felt like I was saving these two by letting them start a different life away from what I had grown up around and the people that was, around us at that time. And so it's to the point that when I was in my 40s, there was a news story, and a woman who was in her 40s her daughter had found out about the milk carton pictures that was going around, and she went looking just through the pictures on the internet, because of course they didn't put them on milk cartons anymore, and she found a picture that was her mom's baby picture that her mom had one similar to, and searching, sure enough, the woman was that baby on the milk carton, and she had been stolen out of a supermarket when she was a baby, and it made me mad because my picture was not on those milk cartons. As I've grown older, I've realized if the people that I had been raised around were not the way they were, then I would not be me and would not be who I am. And I kind of like who I am, so I'm not worried about that anymore. I can look back and see that things that I grew up in and went through, as an adult a lot because of my own irresponsibility and bad decision-making skills, are things that have put me in place now that I'm able to do these radio shows, and I'm able to work with women who have been through problems that I wouldn't be able to deal with if I didn't have experience with them. So I've made peace with those things. And with my mom growing up, my dad did indeed die in prison, and I didn't tell a lot of people that because who wants to be known as the child of somebody that died in prison for horrible things? But I went through life without talking about it and without doing things. And I think it doomed my marriage, though, from the very start, because I think no matter what was done after that, that had left such scars on me that there was no hope. So by the time I was 32, we got divorced. I ended up being introduced to the really good guy that I am married to now, but one of the qualifications for me dating was for somebody to be a good dad, because I wanted my kids to see that, and frankly, I needed to see that. And so, he fits the bill. He worships God, and he's there. But when we were dating seriously, I told him about the two babies I'd put up for adoption, even though I hadn't told anybody else. But I told him because I didn't want him to be blindsided one day when they showed up, because I knew they would. And I still kept trying to search online and do things, but, I had no clue what I was searching for. In 2016, I get a call from my ex-husband. And I do have to say, in regards to me, he handled it well, because he told me, our oldest had tracked him down, and he wanted to give him information because he wanted to get in touch with me. And he apologized to me for, not being a responsible adult at that point, so that we felt like we had found ourselves in that position. As to how he handled it with everybody else, that's between him and everybody else. But I do have to say that he did say that to me. And first thing I did is I have to tell my daughter and my son. But my son had found out from his dad a few years earlier and was keeping our secret. And so I went and told my daughter. And then I called my ex-sister-in-law and told her. And then I told my mom. And then I told everybody else. Everybody. And because I wanted them to know, I was happy. And the first time I talked to him was like one of the best moments of my life. And it was near Christmas. It's like the best Christmas present ever. But I hadn't dealt with it. I hadn't dealt with when I was 16 and 19 and losing babies, and I hadn't dealt with anything. I just kind of put it back. So I ended up having what they call birth mother regression, which really made me deal with everything that went on about the time that I put the babies for adoption. We met him in January. By the time we were headed back from visiting him, I had started my nervous breakdown, which I have shared with you many times. So I wasn't on stable ground in my emotional life and in life at all at that point, to where I couldn't form coherent sentences. So I handled the reunion extremely bad. from giving them chances to turn me away to, want you here, to just, I've been told wishy-washy, and I know I was, because I was a mess at that point, just totally, completely a mess. They did all band together and put out a search for their younger brother, and they found him. Turns out he did have a very good mom and a very successful family, and the first time I talked to him, he was quick to tell me that. And he's very close to his adopted mom, and I'm very glad, because that's exactly what I wanted. I have texted back and forth with her, and I've met him and texted with him, and she did an awesome, wonderful job taking care of him. And it does my heart good, and I'm filled with joy to turn around and see him start building relationships with his older brother and sister who are here. One of us we're not on good terms with, and I hear that's common in adoption worlds, because I've been in a support group online, and I've been talking to other people since then, and it's a mess, but it's another things that we've messed up in life. I mean, first of all, they say that the adopted children have identity problems of who they really are and why they were given away, even under the best of circumstances. And adopted parents, I've met many of them, and several of them are really good and have good hearts and want to do the best by their children, and they work as hard as they can to do it. But, it wasn't ideal in how God intended it, so there's going to be problems in there. I've met many children who, some have done well, many others have not. And it's because they seem to think something's wrong with them that they were given away, and that's not it. Like I said at the beginning, it was all about me. It was totally, completely about me. I was irresponsible. I was young. I had no clue. I didn't have the best support system. I wanted the kids to have the best they were, and it didn't feel brave and heroic. It felt desperate and given up, all the way through. And it wasn't a choice of whether I would abort them or put them up for adoption. It was, okay, abortion's not going to enter the issue because I won't do that. But in the adoption world, they say, abortion's a life issue. Adoption and parenting are two totally different things. Either you're going to parent the child or you're unable to, so you put them up for adoption. And I really think there's many, many, many kids that should have been put up for adoption because their parents don't need the kids. They don't take care of them. They neglect them. And they're still there. The kids have to deal with it, and I don't think that's fair to the kids. But if anybody from the adoption world hears this, for me to say, yes, I'm for adoption in a lot of issues, then they're going to slam me because birth mothers are not supposed to be for adoption. But if I want to really believe, like I did, that I was trying to do the best for my children, then yes, I agree with adoption. There's some parents that shouldn't be parents. People talk about reunification of the families, and I'm all for that. I'm glad to be able to text with my youngest son and wish him happy birthday and watch him and his wife and his family, and I'm very happy to be even that small portion of their life, because I gave up my rights to be anything else. But it is hard. Being a birth mom's hard. On their birthdays, it's hard. On my birthday, it's hard. On Mother's Day, I always felt like a fraud because I tried to be the best mom I could to the other two, but I was a fraud. And, it's just a hard road no matter which way you go, but that's what we do to things. God has a family intended. He set out, for the family to be together and to do things the way that is ideal. And when we don't do things that way and we make other decisions, then it makes life difficult, and it brings all kinds of struggles into it that wouldn't be there if we were doing the things that we're supposed to. Unfortunately, we all have free will, and we all have to learn and grow, and we make mistakes. And, would I go back now? I've tried to think of any way that I could have kept my children and raised them. And the only thing I can think of is I would have put my Aunt Brenda in a car and took my babies and took off to the other side of the world, not let anybody know where we were, and tried to start over. And I know she would have been there to support us. But where would I have done that? After the third one or after the fourth one? And, all I could say is their dad and I made 4 incredibly intelligent, attractive, talented kids. Their life circumstances and stuff has worked with them in different ways, but when you see them together, you can see where there's the nature versus nurture in. They have common characteristics and things in common that you never ever would think is down to DNA, but it is. And I can understand when you say, I want to see my smile and my features on somebody else. Unfortunately, when we see the good things about us and other people, we also get to see the bad things about us. So, do I agree with adoption? Yeah, under the right circumstances, and I cannot see any way that I could have made different decisions when I was a teenager. But I can tell you that it tore my heart out, and it was very difficult even to now. You know, after I've gone through all my healing processes and stuff, it's still the most unsteady position in my life, because I'm always worried if I'm going to say too much or not say enough or anything, whereas I'm confident in all the rest of my life. So, you know, watch the movie and rejoice over your friends who are adopting a baby when they've tried so hard to have one and they haven't been able to. Be glad when that foster child finds a family that is going to take care of them and treat them the way that they should be treated, because their own parents cannot. If you know a teenager or someone young or even older people who are struggling to make it through, be supportive and be there for them so they don't feel like they're desperate and they have no other option. Let it be an educated decision and not one out of desperation. It's like I say in just about everything that we talk about, you don't know what the people around you are going through. So be kind and be supportive and let them know that, hey, I'm here for you. You're not by yourself. Because none of us are never alone. We always have God with us, but sometimes it's good to have that arm around your shoulder and just somebody else to say, hey, I'm there. So, you know, be aware of what's going on with the people around you. Be a support system for them when they need it. So, like I said, decisions can be made education-wise and not desperation-wise. If you are a birth mom and you need somebody to talk to, call me. I'll be happy to talk to you. There's been several adopted kids that I have talked to that, you know, can hear my experience as a birth mom, which is not the reception others give them. So, you know, and if you're an adopted mom, I'll be glad to support you there too. Just, we need to be there for one another. And we need to realize that not everything that follows, we don't follow God's plan in everything, so it gets messed up. And we have to deal with what gets messed up in it and do the best we can. So anyway, I hope that my little speech about being a birth mom and sharing my experience helps somebody somewhere. And in my experience, I'm finding out anytime I put something out there, God does have an audience that's intended to, so I'm sure that it will. And know that in all of it, you're in my prayers, and I covet all the prayers that I can get. And like I said, just support those close to you and be there when they need help. Thank you so much for listening today. I know this one's been a little different than some of our things, but we've got a really good tea talk coming up on Saturday with some of the local nonprofits. And if you're not nearby and you wonder why you want to hear local nonprofits, they're very inspiring of things that can go on in other situations, other areas. And there's always something that somebody needs help with that you can do. So just be a helping hand. Thanks for listening, and, you know, you can come to Perry Street and shout out Margie and open doors, and I'll come out of my little corner, or like I've started saying now, if you see my little red meanie near, then I'm somewhere near. Take care, and we'll talk with you later.
Hi, I'm Holly Reese. I'm the founder of Warrior Defenders. I'm a certified tactical self-defense instructor, and I specialize in women's self-defense. I teach technical drills for survival skills and education on self-defense tools and how to use them. My journey started in self-defense because I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'm here to empower women, to teach them how to be their own heroes, and to learn today to have a safer tomorrow.
You can find Holly online at www.warriordefenders.com.
Moving is a big decision. Selling or buying a home in any market, but especially today's, can raise a lot of questions. Hi, I'm Amy with Killingsworth Realty. My husband Todd and I serve the Coweta and local area. Our purpose at our first meeting is to learn your goals, answer questions, and provide resources so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. Find us online at killingsworthrealty.com or call 678-525-0047 to schedule a free consultation today to discuss your real estate needs. You don't have to do this alone.
Hey guys, this is Dana with Happy Life Nutrition located on 18 Perry Street, downtown Noonan. Hours are 8 to 5, Tuesday through Friday. Come check us out. We will be serving up meal replacement shakes, calorie burning teas, coffees, waffles. We have a kids menu and a workout menu. We do deliveries with a 5-drink minimum or $5 delivery charge if less. You can call ahead for your order. Free Wi-Fi, quiet atmosphere for business meetings or get-togethers. Our number at Happy Life Nutrition is 770-683-5172. Can't wait to see you.
Hello, I'm Pina Payne with Contour Mortgage, and we're so excited. We have just moved to this new company, and we are located at 560 Noonan Crossing Bypass in Noonan next to Art and Jake's, and we have some great products. Our interest rates are better than any other companies, and we also have some great products for the VA. We can do a better deal for you with fees than any other company. We have a lot of different kind of programs.
This is Margie from Connecting Hearts Network. I'd like you to take just a moment and listen to Linda Kirkpatrick explain to you what Family Patterns Matters is all about.
Family Patterns Matter works with youth and their families to help overcome barriers that prevent their success. We meet twice a month with mentoring, tutoring, teaching life skills, resilience, gratitude, and kindness. We also bring music and art therapy. Please visit our website at www.familypatternsmatter.org.
Thanks for tuning in to Connecting Hearts of women to resources, information, and to one another. Presented by Creative Heart Studios, 18 Perry Street, here in Noonan. 404-528-8461. Until next time, have a wonderful day. WQEE 99.1 FM Noonan.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out.
The pandemic has been hard on all our kids. New studies show more than 1 in 3 children who started school in the pandemic now need intensive reading help. That's right. Millions of kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade in the United States cannot read at grade level. Here's the good news. Your child can be reading in just 30 days, guaranteed, with Hooked on Phonics. Even if your child has been struggling, Hooked on Phonics will teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. And right now, you can get started for just $1. Text the word GRADE to 323232 right now. Hooked on Phonics is highly effective and incredibly fun, and everything can be done right from home and in less than 20 minutes a day for more than 30 years. Hooked on Phonics has been the proven learn-to-read program that kids love to use. Text GRADE to 323232 and teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. Text GRADE to 323232 right now and get started for just $1. Text GRADE to 323232 now. Text GRADE to 323232.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out.
The pandemic has been hard on all our kids. New studies show more than 1 in 3 children who started school in the pandemic now need intensive reading help. That's right. Millions of kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade in the United States cannot read at grade level. Here's the good news. Your child can be reading in just 30 days, guaranteed, with Hooked on Phonics. Even if your child has been struggling, Hooked on Phonics will teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. And right now, you can get started for just $1. Text the word GRADE to 323232 right now. Hooked on Phonics is highly effective and incredibly fun, and everything can be done right from home and in less than 20 minutes a day for more than 30 years. Hooked on Phonics has been the proven learn-to-read program that kids love to use. Text GRADE to 323232 and teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. Text GRADE to 323232 right now and get started for just $1. Text GRADE to 323232 now. Text GRADE to 323232.